What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today when I talk to you about Nio, I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's really moving Nio, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. Starting off, Nio is down 4.24%. Market's been open roughly around 45 minutes. So the market, in fact, not necessarily just Nio, is selling off. And that's because of tentative fears associated to CPI, as well as what the Feds might do for the interest rate. Well, I guess rather what's going to be said afterwards. I feel like that is just massively flawed, because it's one thing to move the stock price based on true data, but now you're already moving the stock price in just the broader market because of what you anticipate the data to do, which was kind of yesterday's sell-off excuse. So it's a very flawed system right now. So I think the larger entities out there are just looking for deals. And so one way to do that is to spread fear, cause a sell-off, and then that way they can buy things cheap. So that's just what I feel is happening across the board. But nonetheless, Nio is getting hit a little bit more than the broader EVs. So Lucid is down 1.47, Tesla down 2.5, Rivian is down 1.6, and then Polestar is down 0.94, but they've been beaten down enough. The market's been open about 45 minutes, 15.8 million shares have been traded, 59.1 is the average. No official news associated to Nio, no SEC filings, but what I find very weird is that good EV stats just came out. So kind of, in my opinion, like people should be buying based on this data. So as you can kind of see right here, EV company news for the month of May 2024, which it does signal that as a whole on the global scale, EV sales did go up 25% year over year. And so that's huge. China sales went up 27%, Europe is up 11%, and the States is up 2.6. So once again, this is very good data that a logical investor can get behind and kind of invest accordingly. So let me know your thoughts on this data. Do you think that this is good, bad? The States only being up 2.6% is rather low in comparison to previous reports. So maybe that's a cause for concern, but by no means to sell. But then again, what do I know, right? But aside from that though, the only new thing that has really come out that's maybe affecting Nio is a new analyst rating. It does show yesterday, but it just popped up today. It was a $4 sell rating by Barclays, who the analyst does have a 48% success rating. So not necessarily the best. And with Nio currently sitting at 450 and change, clearly this is seen as a big negative. So let me know your thoughts on that. As a consensus though, based on all the ratings, $6.33 is the average, which does represent a 40.04% upside from the current prices. And while I'm actually on here, latest Morningstar report, no change for that. So it still does show $9.10 being the fair market value for Nio. And as well, the latest Elliott Wave Technicals does have a pivot point of $5.46. So for as long as Nio is below that, then this is where it is anticipated to hit between kind of the mid threes. So I think a lot of algorithms are piggybacking off of this. So more of a breakdown of the technicals. So once again, I just wanted to bring this up. This part right here, the technical analysis, isn't necessarily the most optimistic and bullish, but then again, I just wanted to break it down because no doubtably that is what is really affecting a lot of the algorithms behind the scenes. So again, just kind of keep that into consideration. But aside from all of this fun stuff, let's go over some of the data points, more specifically shorts. Right now, they are increasing 1.37 million shares. 12.17% of the free float is being shorted, and the works out to be 158.49 million shares overall are being shorted. And that equates to about $741 million. So definitely a lot of shorts out there. Utilization 69.75, and then cost to borrow average is 1.66%. Even just looking over here, just on the chart, shorts haven't been doing all that much with Nio. I know they're increasing like almost 1.5 million shares right now, but in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of a drop in the bucket, considering like 158 million shares are being shorted. So shorts are just hesitantly waiting. They're not really willing to double down, nor are they willing to kind of return some shares, because it's very cheap to borrow for Nio, right? Cost to borrow is like 1.66%, and that's an annual rate. So like I said, I think Nio does need to put out some good substantial news because there hasn't really been anything as of late. A lot of things floating around on social media and whatever else, but it'd be good if the company itself was to put out some substantial updates, operational updates, I guess, aside from, or I guess piggybacking from their recent earnings. So once again, let me know your thoughts on that. Looking at options though, about 546,000 in calls being purchased so far, 1.75 in puts. Sentiment wise though, very bearish. So 80% of all the options being done today are bearish, anticipating for it to trend down. Clearly that might be correlated with the technicals as well. And of the call options that are being purchased, you do see a consensus for it to be between that 450 and 5, and then looking at puts, more of a consensus for it to be sub between 4 and 450. So in my opinion, I think the risk versus reward has somewhat diminished, and I think that has to do with more of a breakdown on the technicals as well, because just looking over the last like 5 days, it is down 6.31%. Even the last 1 month, it is down 19.03%. So it did have a fairly good run, but obviously wasn't really justified. No buyers or no institutions were really willing to kind of back it up and buy at the mid fives and whatever else. Even today though, you don't see that much institutions buying. So last big transactions did occur on the 6th, and ever since then, so more specifically I guess on the 7th and the 10th, so far nothing today, but they were mostly sells. So institutions are starting to unload their bags, not really willing to buy it at these prices. Possibly, once we do look at the technicals, this is where they might be buying in the low fours, because with it at $4.53, it is trading between this S3 and this S2. So very wide gap, so anticipate a lot of volatility, but $4.56 is going to be that next strong resistance slash target. So just watch for Nio to kind of flirt with that throughout the day, or possibly just kind of push itself between this S2 and this S1, but kind of keep note of this S2 right here. And then vice versa, 404 is going to be that next strong support. So definitely the technicals aren't looking the best, and institutions not really buying doesn't help anyone or anything. And currently it is actually below that 50-day moving average, which generally on the charts is a very big pivot. So I think once again, the technicals aren't necessarily looking the best. So this is why I like to analyze a lot of different information. Short's not really doing much, is somewhat neutral. Options is very bearish. That data that I did mention associated to EVs, if you are one of those investors that you don't want to try and catch the bottom, you're just investing in the stock itself, so you're more of an investor versus a trader, then yeah, invest accordingly based on that data. But if you're trying to catch the bottom, I feel like every data point is signaling that it might be potentially pulling back. Even looking at stochastic, you do see a very bearish deviation, so red line above the white as well. It is though at 17, so if there's a good piece of news that does come out, then you could see a value rally, possibly CPI related, or even the Fed's decision rate, or even just Nio specific. As long as something very positive, then you could see a rush of value investors. And even though, like I said, institutions aren't really buying all that much, you do see retail also selling out. So that's kind of a very interesting scenario. So give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Are you selling? Are you part of this statistic that is selling? And potentially why? So let me know your thoughts on all of that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and they give you 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So this is a kick-ass deal. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.